Alright, what's up guys? Crenshaw the Barber here. Let's get right to it. First thing you want to do is set your guideline. Me personally, I think the guideline is the most important aspect of any haircut. Your guideline determines the kind of fade you will end up with. With that being said, I'm very intentional with creating an even guideline around the head. The reason I'm using a clipper instead of a trimmer is because I believe it makes it easier to remove hard lines at the bottom of my fades. We're just going to clean this up. Make sure it's nice and even. Speed this up for you guys. Alright, so I'm going to use my FX trimmer to create a softer guideline underneath my initial clipper guideline. So that means I'm not going all the way up to the guideline that I created with the trimmers. I'm just going right underneath it, and I'm flicking it out at the very top of it. I don't want to make this a hard line either. The more time you take on this, the better the outcome. Alright, so next I'm going to grab my full shaver, and as you can see right here, I'm using it at the very bottom. I'm going to clean up everything underneath my trimmer guideline. However, I'm not making it extremely close at the top of the guideline. It may look like it, but I'm really stopping right underneath the FX trimmer guideline. I'm using a soft flicking motion at the top so I don't create another guideline. Alright, so this part is where it's going to get a little tricky. I'm going to use a trimmer that is not zero gap like my FX trimmer, meaning this trimmer is not as sharp as my FX trimmers. Using this allows me to smoothly blend my clipper guideline and my FX trimmer guideline without creating another guideline. When I do this, I'm using a real light touch, and I'm just lightly fading out those two, blending them in together. Why this is important you'll see later as we continue to go through the cut. Okay, now that I've built a solid foundation for my fade, I can build on top of it. I'm going to use a half guard with the lever closed, creating about an inch width guideline. How wide or how small each of my guidelines are depends on the end goal of the haircut, but more importantly the shape and size of the head, and as well as the preference of the haircut of my client. I'll go back and forth within the same guideline to ensure that the hairs are the same length as possible. This will help me at the end of the haircut when I come back and clean up any imperfections. After I've done that, I take the half guard off and only remove the bottom portion of the guideline with a soft touch. I'm not trying to create another guideline, I'm just removing that bottom weight, and I'm flicking it up lightly. Alright, so now I have the lever open all the way, and I'll remove the top portion, but I am not creating another guideline. I'm still working within the original guideline section of our half guard. It's important that you don't create a new guideline within your section. You can prevent this with using a soft flicking outward motion at the top of your section. like to take my time during each section of the haircut. There's nothing wrong with moving around. I know it can get boring staying in one spot for a long time. However, I like knowing that one section is completely done to minimize the time it takes after the haircut is done when I'm trying to clean things up. Alright guys, so the next guard I'm going to use is the one, and this is closed, and as you can already see, our fade is more evident. From time to time I may take the guard I'm using off to clean up as I go, or use a previous guard to clean up a previous section. However, when I do this, I'm always using the appropriate guard for each guideline section. This is vital because you don't want to use a smaller guard or a larger guard in a section that you have already determined what size guard you're going to use. This is how you can get a lot of lines created that you have to fight with and wrestle with later. Alright, so the next guard I'm using is a 3 close, using the same techniques as before in previous sections, with the flicking motion at the top. Try not to create another guideline. So I'm going back to a 2 right underneath the 3 to clean up and check previous work, and working on blending the 2 lengths together. When I'm cleaning up, I'm only using the corners of my clipper or guard. So that's like 2 to 3 teeth on either the right or the left side, depending on which side of the head I am on. And this is preventing me from creating unwanted guidelines. Cleaning up my section, knocking out some of the dark spots, trying to make it extra blurry. And it's okay to take your time when you're doing this, because honestly, I've never seen a person that was upset that I took too much time versus rushing through a haircut and leaving a whole bunch of indents or, dark spots. Like, I've always had people that are pretty happy with their haircuts, regardless of how much time I take. But I do have a schedule that I like to keep. When it comes to the top, I like to get the hair damp, not too damp. You don't want the water running down your client's forehead. I like to spray on top, and then I like to lift up the hair, spray underneath to get down to the roots. That way everything is pretty damp, but not dripping. We don't want that drip, not just yet. First you want to comb the hair forward. Then you want to determine the dominant origin of the hair in the crown area. You want to create a part from this point along the parietal ridge to the recession point. How I tackle sectioning the top for a trim or cut goes like this. When cutting a forward style haircut, I use what I call a horseshoe part.
I call it the swirl. So we see the swirl is right here. We're going to take the section, go around to the front like this, part away. Just like that. We're going to follow it around this way as well, all the way to the front. Normally I would clamp this together just depending on how long the hair is, but his isn't that long, so it's so what you're going to do, you want to pull down on the hair like this, not really tight, it's loose fitting. Cut. And this is going to be your guideline, and you're going to follow this all the way around. When you start to get to the side, as you can see, the hair is longer here. Now if you want a crop top, you're going to want that section all the way around like this. But if you want some length on the front, like if they have bangs, you want to angle it like this. So when you cut it, you're going to create an angle this way versus going straight across all the way. Okay?
Again, I'm trying to keep the hair damp to make my cuts easier and my ability to manage the hair better.
Alright, so now that we have our horseshoe section right here, we're going to go from the swirl, we're going to go straight down the middle. Now that we've already created our guideline from our previous section, just going to pull this outward. I'm just going to follow your guideline. Remember to keep an angle if you angle this part. We're going to do the same thing on this side with following our guideline. Good. Then we're going to go from cost. So we're going to check our work, clean everything up. there's different ways that you can create texture. You can do it by using your thinning shears or texturizing shears. What I typically do, depending on how much time I'm running on my haircuts, I'll just use my thinning shears, and I think that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'll show you guys how to do that. So we're going to create our horizontal sections like we did before. Pull up. We're just going to go like that. Okay. Now, depending on how much hair you want to cut off, really depends on the client's desire for their texture look. Some people like it extremely textured, some people just like a little bit.
Alright guys, so that's it for this video. At this point, I'm just going over my work, polishing up blemishes that I see. If you learned something from this video, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and let me know what you would like to see in the next video down in the comments. Crenshaw the Barber, I'm out. Peace.